Patriarchy is a social system where men hold a disproportionate amount of power in society, the economy, politics, and religion. The term comes from the Greek word patriarchos, which means the rule of the father. Last week's episode gives us the perfect example of the patriarch in full display. Now, earlier in the season, Kody had this to say.
I've never been patriarchal. I've never behaved patriarchal. I actually was just angry once when Christine was leaving and I said, hey, we're going to do this patriarchy thing, but I've never been patriarchal.
I'm like you guys. There are things that I just understand because,
I've been around,
Now, earlier in the season, we had an opportunity to see Mary and Kody have this discussion where Kody comes over. He doesn't like the fact that Mary went back and got a separation in the church from him, and he was accused of abandoning Mary. And by default, because if you do one thing one way, you probably do all things that same way, that if he had all abandoned Mary, he most likely abandoned his other two wives. In full respect as far as the church is concerned, as far as anybody who's watching, this is a complaint that Kody has been combating and battling the entire run of the Sister Wife program, that he is neglecting and has abandoned the wives and their kids. And so Kody comes over to the house, and there's a few points that just make you say, what? Like, for instance, where Kody had said, well, it took you went down right away and got this separation. It was kind of quick, wasn't it? Oh, really? Quickly? If you remember that from Mary. It's the expectation. And that's what I think many of us, as we watch the polygamy propaganda program and we talk about the term patriarchy, that's what we're talking about. It's that privilege. That's the privileged mindset. The mindset that you think you can turn around and tell your wife or tell the people that you're involved with that all of a sudden, you know what? I don't like how this is going. I don't like how you guys are treating me. I don't like that you think you have your own mind and you can make your own decision. So if you think you can make your own decision, we're going to have to revoke that ability for you to be able to make up your own mind because clearly you can't handle it. And we're going to have to go back to a system where I tell you what to do. And that's what we watched in season 17 when they were sitting outside and Kody was sitting there, thinking about the situation and decided that it was time for the family to go back to patriarchy. It's the fact that you think you can initiate it. And see, the funny thing about any type of oppressive institution, you yourself don't necessarily have to ascribe to the systems within that institution to benefit from the oppressive nature of said institution. Now, for Kody, because they were involved in this particular faith and the structure itself demands that it's a patriarchal structure, meaning it focuses on the men, Kody doesn't have to come out and say, I'm the patriarch and demand or declare it on high that this is what he wants to do. He can just simply push the entire time when we listen to Kody talk. Oh, I can't have any wives in charge of any other wives. So if you can't have any wives in charge of any other wives and you only have wives and a husband, that would automatically mean that the husband by default is in charge. And that doesn't mean that the husband is the most qualified to be in charge, that he's the most intelligent, patient, concerned, compassionate, the person equipped with the most leadership skills. No, it just means that he just happens to have a certain appendage that allows him to have leadership, the staff. He has a staff and therefore he's the leader. That's the way it works, right? Nature did it and I didn't do it. That's ridiculous. But that's the mindset he went into. And the fact that he could present that to these women in all seriousness, because it wasn't a joke when he said that. He was dead ass. He was serious as hell when he said that we're going to go to patriarchy. And this is what I decided to do. You don't have a right if they can revoke it. Okay, that's a privilege. You can revoke a privilege. You can take a privilege away. In other words, when he approaches the family and he allows his wives to be strong, independent, make decisions for themselves, and do things outside of his purview, he's allowing that to happen. In his mind, he's allowing that to happen. And what occurred was on that porch, because I don't think Kody ever came out. Like, I do believe in his mind, he was never patriarchal in the sense that he never came out and said that he was patriarchal. But that was that was the unspoken expectation that he had, and that's how he led the family. It was through patriarchy. Oh, I'll let you believe that you have a choice, but realistically, you don't have a choice. This is the equivalent of when you're dealing with your children and you say, hey guys, would you like to have corn or green beans? The choice is corn or green beans. So you're not really choosing as much as you're just picking one of the two selections that I allow you to have. I didn't say, what do you guys want as a side? Because a lot of kids might say, I'll nix the corn, forget the green beans. I want French fries. I want French fries every meal. I don't want to see anything green on my plate or yellow or any kind of fruit or vegetable. I just want to see, well, technically, I guess potatoes, but I want to see it deep fried. The only thing I want to see on my plate is deep fried potatoes. That's not your kids making a choice. That's you allowing your children to choose acceptable parameters for the things that you're allowing them to choose. And that's what we saw on Sister Wives the entire time. It's funny to me that he'll sit there and like, even with Ben the Fresh King, his nephew, Kody's nephew, he came out and said at one point, I think when he was talking to Sarah from Reality Squad during their interview, that Kody was the most progressive member of his family. Like, of all the older generation, he's the most progressive one. He's basically a hippie, which pretty much lets you know where they're at. Like, if Kody's a hippie, then holy cow, holy smokes. You know what I mean? That's like saying Robin's the funny one. Like, oh my goodness. Like, this is terrible. Yeah, you understand what I mean? So it's all relative, I guess, to a point that, Kody's the hippie, but at the same time, Kody has those proclivities. He has those inclinations. That's baked into the cake. The fact that he can make the argument that everybody should be loyal to him and everybody should respect him, and by respecting him and being loyal to him, that means that you serve and show him obedience, then you're playing into his patriarchal nature. And that's what we see in the show. And, I like the fact that Mary stood up and made points where she needed to make points. I like the fact that she stood up for herself. And that's, to be honest with you, the explosion of the Sister Wives program, I think, is not due to the fact just because the women decided to break up the marriages and the marriages are falling apart. I think it's because the women are taking back their autonomy. That's what people are celebrating. They're celebrating the fact that not just the fact that these women are getting out, but the fact that they're getting back to themselves. They're empowering themselves. They're actually experiencing true power by making self-determinative decisions on how they want their life to turn out. And I think that is something that should be celebrated. And if you're a secure person, you should want somebody who is able to make those decisions for themselves. It doesn't do me any good to have so much power over my partner that they can never see themselves without me. I'd rather have a partner who chooses to be with me as opposed to a partner who doesn't have a decision, can't make those decisions for themselves. Because there's no value in that. But that also requires the person who is okay with that to experience some sense of security and some level of self-esteem. Part of the problem with these organizations is the fact that they don't have a lot of security. They don't have a lot of self-esteem. They don't have a lot of command of those internal factors which allow them to be around other strong people. Instead, they need to dominate and control people around them. And unfortunately, the only way they can dominate and control them is for them to break them. And by breaking them, I mean they have to put them in a position where the women can't, it's not a automatic every day out the week, I'm doing something to you. You have to get them in a position where they start to subjugate themselves. And I think that that's what we've got to see a lot of the time. When Kody would go out and do the wrong thing, or we would look at it and say, wow, that's really jacked up, he did that. And then you would have the people who would technically would be the victims of his bad decision making sitting there defending him, and oh, he's a good guy, and oh, he didn't mean to do it, and oh, he's not that kind of person. Clearly he is. The true test of character isn't when everything is going good and when everybody is agreeing with one another. The true test of character is when you don't agree with the person. Now, this is my take. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Do you guys celebrate the ladies leaving? Do you celebrate Kody? Let me know what you guys think. Maybe it's something else you guys think about the patriarchy. Let me know what you guys think down below. This is My Take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out. 'Cause I've been living